Hey everybody. Hi, hello, and welcome. I picked my hair out today. Well, I shampooed it and I picked it. It's a little bit more hair than I was expecting. Um, so the good vibes keep on rolling. What's the song? I don't know. Um, I'm gonna get one of these little icebreakers. One second. Oh, I got two. It's like one and a half. So I think some kind of conclusion was reached. And so I'm going to talk a bit before I reveal the card today. And then we'll see if it's relevant. So, a few things. Last night I came on, and the Queen of Pentacles was a key player. And then I wake up this morning and I see like a recommended tweet or whatever that Twitter does. And it's like Tarot of the Day, Queen of Pentacles. I'm like, okay, come through, Sinks. And so also on Astro Matrix, it's an astrology app that I downloaded. I use it sometimes, but they have like blurbs for all of the aspects and the transits and things like that. And the Mercury Retrograde in Aquarius um, blurb was mental upgrade. But y'all know how I've been talking about that one person that I've been dreaming about? Well, he popped up in my dream again last night. So there's a whole thing. And usually that's how retrogrades kind of sort of go for me. Usually though, so there's like the pre-test, there's like the learning period of the retrograde, and then there's the action period of the retrograde. More often than not. So far it seems. Um Also, I changed out of my favorite shirt, so I'm a little sad about that, but it's fine. This is a shirt I've had since literally middle school, and it's always fit me, even though other shirts haven't. Let me focus a little bit. So I was talking about this person who I was in the vicinity of for 5 years. We worked together. We lived on the same floor. We were in the same group during freshman orientation. And I never talked to him. Well, I talked to him sometimes, but I never got to know him because I was never interested for whatever reason. And then in the first dream, somebody was talking about him a lot. One of our mutual friends. And talking about what he's overcome and like how awesome he is. And I'm just sitting there amazed because this is somebody that I never cared to know. Also, at the end of the dream, though, I had to sort of like fess up to that a little bit. The next time I see him, he just like pops up. He's just like a face in a crowd. Um, and then I was talking about how I've been having a few dreams about old acquaintances and associates and coworkers and things like that. People who went from like stranger to acquaintance or acquaintance to friend. Not necessarily people who got, I don't want to say people who didn't get close to like my inner circle because one of them did. But that was all about a trauma bond and the company that misery loves to keep. Um, and so I talked about how I think it's going to be important to reassess or reanalyze some of the choices and decisions that I made in the past, and how a lot of those were kind of sort of trauma responses, and how now and moving forward, I wouldn't make the same choices and decisions. Another thing, and so I've been in this in a period of reevaluating social connections and things like that for a few weeks now, I guess. Um, And then a few days ago, I don't think it was the cleaners. There's been a few things. When I did the zodiacs and I made it to Capricorn, I felt called out a little bit, honestly, not gonna lie. And there was something I was saying. Was it the Valley of Judgment? I don't. It was probably. It was in one of the videos lately. I don't remember. I don't think it was. Actually, it might have been when I was talking about. No, hold up. That was on the other channel. And it was this energy basically of us, like the way we treat people sort of sets the tone for our life experience in the world that we live in. And not only the people that we love and like, but also the people that we don't really necessarily have a connection to. And I was like, well, if you are someone who's coming into your power, and maybe I said it over here, but I'm pretty sure it was over there, how there are a lot of spiritual people who claim to be coming into their power, but who would use that power to continue to ignore and disregard the things that are coming to the surface to be addressed. And how that it strengthens that polarity. It bolsters the forces of darkness because now it's like you're just subjugating it and relegating it back to the shadow instead of resolving that and actually doing something to remove its influence. And then from there, I've been in this constant period of evaluating who and how I want to be. And I've been balancing the water and the fire in my chart and me for since like last July. um, but I settled on, like, while I do think it's important to hold people accountable, especially spiritual people or people who would come into any level of whatever. It can be religious people. Everybody needs to be held accountable, but especially spiritual people, from my perspective. Um, because it's important that it's like when you go from prince to king or princess to queen or king to emperor, queen to empress, like there are certain things that you don't necessarily have to worry about. There are certain things that you can overlook, but when you go through that process of elevation, there are certain things that can't be overlooked because it's a kingdom doomed to fall that would overlook the problems that go on within it in order to project or preserve a certain image. And so one of the things that, and I talked about it, yesterday? I probably did talk about it yesterday when I was like, I finally decided to get over myself and all this other stuff, right? Um, it's like, I also understand, and a form of compassion and consideration is giving people time to come to their own conclusions and to navigate whatever process they need to navigate. There's quite a few things in life that I don't really have a strong personal experience with that could slow or delay certain things. Um, Maybe some informations I'm privy to know because they have been my experience. And so it's not me now trying to mentally cope with or wrap my head around the fact that some things aren't as pretty as I would have been led to believe. Um, but it's just more patient. I want to be more patient with people. So, um, but also still hold them accountable. Anyway, and then I talked about, releasing some other stuff and just not standing in the way anymore. And it's not that I was ever in the way necessarily, but it was like there was more to be released, more to be considered. Um, and that consideration is important to me because there are things and people and situations that are important to me. And so if I have to get over myself, then I will. And it makes me better, and I'm excited to be better. Anyway, I talked about that yesterday. I've been in some like really good moods lately. And so last night I had a dream about that guy again, the one that I never even got to know. I thought the disinterest was mutual, but then I found out later that it wasn't. And honestly, I didn't feel too bad in that case. But that was a missed opportunity to get to know someone that I spent so much time with or spent so much time around. Who's actually working in the field that I want to like work in. Anyway, last night I had a dream. We went to the same school. I had a dream that we were leaving. It's like I was leaving, but then he was there, and then he was gone, and then we were going somewhere else. We were going on like a road trip, and my little brother was there. So my youngest brother was there. And my youngest brother in my life has been a person that we are just opposite. What's interesting though is like his Taurus moon falls at the same degree that my Taurus rising does. But it's like so when it comes to me, and this is also something that's in flux, so it's changing. But when it comes to me and other Tauruses, it's either like we get along great and amazingly, or we don't at all. And we just like butt heads. Because if I'm set in my ways and you're set in your ways and they're not compatible and there's no wiggle room, and it's only the ones that I live with. But growing up, we just like fought all the time. There were a few moments, like there was one moment in particular I remember. One Christmas Eve, they had a Bring It On marathon, and we watched it, and it was actually really fun. And that's something that I never would have expected to do with my little brother, is watch a whole bunch of Bring It On movies the night before Christmas. Um, but like always at each other's throats, always tearing each other down. And it wasn't until I left for college that we got along. And there's like a 5-year difference between us. Um, and so we were only at the same school for like 1 year. And then like I was the big brother, and if somebody was picking on him, I didn't like that. So I pushed a kindergartner when I was in the 5th grade because I told him to leave my little brother alone, and he didn't do it. And then we actually ended up becoming friends after that. So that was my experience with most people in elementary school. And even into middle school, it's like, oh, I started off not liking you, or you started off annoyed by me, but eventually we come around. And so anyway, back to him. He's someone who, like, as an older brother, there are certain things that I would like. I want his life to be as easy and prosperous as it possibly can be. And so if I see him doing something or getting into something or not doing something that could be like beneficial, getting into or doing something that could be detrimental and not doing something that could be beneficial, then I get like a little worried and concerned. Like, I'm not his parent, but I am his older brother. Um, and we're just extremely different people. and we have very different interests. And I feel like he's more like, he's sun sign Taurus, I'm moon sign Taurus. So we both have a pretty fierce heart, or we do. But like, I'm sun sign Pisces, and so when it comes to like the expression of who we are, or the light of who we are, it's different. And our relationship didn't improve until I left, because then I didn't have to live with them. So that helped a lot. But also, it's like I got to the point where I just learned to start accepting him for who he is, and to stop trying to control him. But it's not controlling him in a controlling way. It's just he's gonna make his own decisions, because he's his own person and I'm my own person, and the things that would work for me aren't necessarily going to work for him, and the things that work for him aren't necessarily going to work for me. And the way that we go about life is different. And after I learned to just accept that, our relationship improved drastically, to the point where like he actually talks to me about some stuff. And sometimes I'm just like, part of me is like, I don't want to know, because, and it's not that he's necessarily doing anything terrible necessarily, but there's a huge part of me that wants better for him. But the better that I want for him isn't necessarily the better that he'd be happy with, because again, we're very different people. But I do appreciate the fact that we actually have a relationship now, and that he can talk to me about stuff, and that he actually goes to me sometimes. And it's put a lot of things into perspective. So that's one relationship. And so we get into the RV van type thing, and we're both in the back. And I was about to take a nap, and he was back there, and he asked me to tell him how to do something, or I was explaining something to him so he would know how to do it. And I was like, all right, like, sit back here and we'll talk. And then I had a cousin in there. And then the dude who I never took the time to get to know was driving. And our relationship was different. Like, we were actually friends. Like friends enough for me to fall asleep in the back of a vehicle that he's driving, first and foremost. And so for me, I guess it just kind of sort of highlighted or illuminated the fact that I reached the conclusion that I was supposed to make within my own personal life, specifically during the time of this retrograde period in Mercury, but just in general. And again, Mercury is retrograde in my 11th house, which is like, it can be the space of like associates and coworkers and friends in a more broadly social sense, and not necessarily like your close, like your inner circle, like your outer circle. Mid to outer circle and beyond, basically, is one aspect of the 11th house. And so I've been revisiting that dynamic and noticing how differently I interact with that space now. And also noticing how differently I would like to interact with that space, as I already talked about. And so that dream for me, again, it was confirmation that I'm on the right track. And I never thought, like, it would be funny if he reached out to me in real life. It would be hilarious, but I don't think that's the case. I think his face was in the dream to get me to see, because I have the context of knowing how I feel about him and how our relationship or non-relationship has taken its course. And so I don't necessarily associate his face in the dream as like him as a person. It's just an energy that he's representing. Um, but anyway, where was I going with that? He said something towards the end of the dream about Oregon finally doing something. And I think he said California or he said Florida, but I was thinking the other. Um, and it was something like with like green energy. I don't know. It's a dream. But it's like the way that we live life is going to completely change because of some breakthrough that happened in like Oregon, or because of how Oregon and where Oregon is positioned. Things are going to change for the better. Um, and we talked about that a little bit at the end of the dream. But I also had another person there who put on a seatbelt. He wasn't wearing a seatbelt, and then he was, but he had me help him put his seatbelt on. And so basically, I just like from behind him, I just like pulled it, and then he like fastened it, and then I let go, and then it adjusted. Because in some vehicles, the first time if you don't pull the seatbelt out enough, it doesn't go back any further. So you got to put it all the way back in, and then stretch it all the way. I don't know if you've ever been in a vehicle like that. And he's someone who, so within my own personal life, there's one interaction and experience that I had with him that shifted our entire dynamic. And it was when he came over one day and he asked to borrow something. He was like, "Oh, we're going on a trip, and my son needs something to do on the trip, and we got video games galore and handhelds and everything." He asked for a handheld game for his son. We were like, "Okay." Well, I was like, "Well, I can't find mine," so I told my other little brother, not the youngest brother, the middle brother. I was like, I didn't tell him that he offered his handheld device, and it never came back because he sold it because he was on stuff. And then my mom found out, and she was like, "Why did you do that?" And blah blah blah. And we're like children. Okay, we're not like children. We were like teenagers maybe. We were like we had no context. This is what he said. Why would we not believe him? She had more context. Um, and so that completely shifted everything. And then later, he's someone who I found out had like lots of potential, but life had led him to make choices that would lead down a path that would see none of that potential really come to fruition. Um, and to be in a place and in a space where like you want to do better, but it's difficult because of choices that you've made in the past, or because of how difficult it is to, I think one of the biggest things, and I don't know personally, not speaking from personal experience, but I think one of the biggest things with like substance abuse is when it comes to like that being one of the ways that you cope with difficulty and with life. Because it's like you can be clean for a certain amount of time, not a certain amount of, like you can get clean because of how you see it's affecting you and because of what you want to be there for, um, or like what you don't want to continue to experience. But once a difficult situation happens, then it's like, hey, remember me? Like, you don't want to think about whatever you're thinking about right now. You want a temporary escape? Come back to me. And you're like, no, I can't. You're bad for me. You know what you do to me. And it's like, it'll be fine. Just one time to take the edge off. And then you're back. And again, I'm not speaking from personal experience, but it creates this dynamic that it's hard for, I don't want to say like it's hard for love to do some of the things that it has the potential to do as far as liberating us from certain things, but like difficulty and challenge is an inherent part of life, not inherent necessarily. I wouldn't like to say that it's an inherent part of life as far as like bad things are always going to happen, but I would say it's inherent because growth happens and growth is often challenging and difficult. And like that metaphor I talked about, it's our ability to interface with difficulty and challenge that's really going to propel us moving forward, and that's going to set the stage or set the foundation for what it is that we're moving into. So he popped up in the dream and he had me help him fasten his seatbelt. But the interesting thing about his seat was, like, have you ever been in a van where it's like the seats, it's a two-door, so it has entry on both sides of the vehicle, but on one side there's a little bit of a gap because there's a row of seats behind it, but on the other side it's like pretty much flush against the van or whatever, the door. So it was on the left side of the vehicle. Every time I've seen it, it was on the right side. Like every time I that's coming to mind right now, it's been on the right side that has the gap, but in the dream it was on the left side. And he was sitting on the edge. And so like the seat belt was against the wall. Usually at that end it'll be on the bottom instead of on the wall, but that one was on the wall, so we had to pull it across the gap, and that's why he asked me to help him. So like I stretched it to where it should be fine, and then he fastened it. So I have these three characters that I'm basically going on a road trip with now to a better future, because whatever is happening in Oregon is doing that. I don't know. Um, and I don't know. It was just interesting. Ultimately, though, at the end of the day, I took that as confirmation that I am on the path that I need to be on as far as reevaluating how I interact with people at large. Um, and just knowing that I'm not who I used to be and I don't make decisions from the same place. And that's something that I was talking to one of my friends about a few days ago, or maybe a week ago at this point. No, it was a few days ago. It was earlier last week, I guess. So it's a new week today. Excuse me. She's like, wow. Like, can you just like, do you hear yourself? Like, you're so, like, whatever. I'm like, I know, but for me, sometimes it feels like I'm making decisions that play out similarly to how they used to play out in the past, but for completely different reasons and from a different space. Like I'm not making decisions from a trauma space anymore, or from a space of not wanting to get close to people because then they'll leave and I'll be hurt and blah 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 blah, whatever. It's completely different now, but sometimes it still leads me to I'm trying to decide if I want to talk about it or not. Since I'm already talking about it, I guess I'll talk about it. It just leads to like relationships ending, or it leads to space being injected. And before, it's like I would end relationships from a space of like kind of sort of a lack of patience. Sometimes. Other times it's just like not great. And if it's not working for me or working for the other person, then like let's just stop and move on. And I remember one time I had a friend who was pretty narcissistic, and I knew she was from like a few days into it. But like I'm the type of person where like if I'm not extremely inconvenienced, then I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but like if I'm having a good time and if I'm not compromising myself, then I'll go along with it. Even though like when someone asks you to do something, the way that they ask you to do it, it can be very telling. Or yeah. And so there were times when I could see her like trying to pull strings on me. Now, again, most of the time it's stuff that I kind of sort of already wanted to do anyway. But I remember there was one day where, like, I lived in the dorm that she worked at. And she was like, "Oh, I want to take a nap. I'm tired." I said, "Well, you ain't sleeping in here and I'm about to go, so you got to leave." And she was like, "Oh, but like, I got to work and whatever." I'm like, "Okay." And my mind is like, well, when you took this job here and you knew you didn't live here, that's something that you were like, this is something that was a potentiality for you. So, hey, it ain't my fault and it ain't my problem. You got to go because I'm not leaving you in my room. I don't leave anybody in my room unattended. I don't care how much I trust you. I don't trust you that much to keep you in there with my stuff because then if something come up missing later, it's going to be too late. Trauma response. Kinda. 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 That was my line of thinking. And I just didn't feel comfortable with her in my room without me being in there. And so I said no. And she really tried to do whatever. And also, she was at sometimes like she was so self-centered that she couldn't see anything from anyone else's perspective. And there was this one girl that she was friends with for a while. And the girl got upset. And when she was telling me about it, I was like, yeah, I would be upset too. But she was like, why are you so emotional? It's not that big of a deal. Like, get over it. And then she told the girl that she had issues because she was upset. And it's like, girl, if you can't see why your friend is upset, like your best friend is upset in this situation, and you don't even care. Anyway, one day it went too far and I was mad. And I told her why I was mad, but she didn't have the capacity to understand it. And it reached the point where I was done. Then I felt a little bad. And I tried to recoup, but towards the end, but it was too late at that point. And like her and that friend, they ended up both going somewhere for like an internship or something. And this is a whole I'm probably, you know what? I'm just going to, where is it? One second, y'all. I'm about to flip through a few things. Not this one, and it ain't this one. Where is he? Is it up here? No. Is it here? No. Wait, is it? No, not that one. Is it here? No. I'll just leave it on this one. I'm trying to find where it's just this. I'll come back and do this because this is just all like rambly. Or I'll just timestamp when I start. I'll do that. We ended up becoming friends because she really wanted me to be friends with this girl. And so we ended up becoming friends. And then they had that falling out. And like for me, when I decide to become someone's friend, I'm someone else's friend independent of your relationship. And that's one of the reasons why I don't really like getting to know other people's friends now. Because I don't think it's fair for me to stop getting to know someone else because of what happened between two people that I'm not even like a part of. But I know that societally, it's this thing of, well, you were my friend longer and you two wouldn't have even known each other if it wasn't for me. So if I'm done with that relationship, and since we were friends longer, then that means that you are also done with that relationship. And that's something that like I'm not about that. That's why I tell people at the jump. Like I had one of my old friends, he wanted me to really meet his girlfriend, and I said no. Because if y'all break up, then that leaves me in an awkward position because I don't think that my relationship with someone should be based upon your relationship with someone unless they like did something extreme. And then they ended up breaking up. And then we had a mutual friend, and she was like, well, you were her friend longer, so if they're not talking right now, then you shouldn't be talking to her. And I'm like, no. And especially since I listened to like her side of the story. And I'm like, wow, so you're just inconsiderate, first of all. So if I was going to choose somebody in this situation, it wouldn't be you. Because as your friend, I wouldn't want to be subjected to the same inconsideration. Hello? Excuse me? No. Um, but anyway, I met with her friend one day and we chatted sometimes. And she was like, yeah, like after they went off and moved for this internship at a hospital somewhere. She was like, yeah, I see her sometimes and she just pretends like I don't even exist. And I was like, oh, wow, well, not surprised. Um, why did I start talking about her? I don't remember. I went too far down the tangent. I don't know. I don't remember why I started talking about that. But anyway, it was an interesting dream. Um, yeah, I think I'm done seeing that person in my dreams now. I hope. Sometimes for some people, it'll be like a trilogy. Like they'll pop up in three dreams and then they'll be like done. At least that's what happened with one person. But in that last dream that I saw him, it felt like that was the last dream. Because in the dream, like there was this whole little like story arc thing, and in the third dream, it was like the completion of the series. In this one, I feel like it's the completion. Because in the first dream, it was her talking about him and everything. It was one of our mutual friends talking about him and everything that he's been through and how amazing he is. And I was like, wow, I never even gave him the chance. I never took the opportunity to get to know him. And in the third dream, it was us going on a road trip and being cool and being friends. So I feel like that story is over. I really don't know why I started talking about her. I don't know. But that's just one of the other things that people do that like because so many people do it, I understand that it's a thing that people do with friends like, "Oh, you've been my friend longer." But that's not something like that sits right with me as a person. Again, unless it's like something extreme. And so also like if I stop talking to somebody or if like a relationship falls apart between me and somebody else, then I don't demand or ask for our mutual friends to pick sides cuz I don't do that. So like I don't anyway. I think that's it. I think that's it. I really don't remember where I was going with that. But maybe that's it just speaks to in general finding things that are you. What sits right with you versus like what is societally acceptable. And the folks that you allow into your life should be able to accept you and how you exist outside of the norm, I guess. I don't know. I honestly forgot where I was going with that. But 36. Wait, is that 36 or 38? That's 38. I've been live for 38 minutes. Hold it. It's a little number I gotta put on these. Girl, it's been 40 minutes. Yep, 38:45. Okay. I'm gonna say I'm editing the description right now. Starts about 39 minutes in. Oof. But another thing that I was gonna say is that so it seems that my retrograde experiences typically happen, or at least a good 4 to 5 out of the last 6 retrogrades that I remember. Well, maybe not. I know in 2019, and then summer 2018. No, it had to be 2019. So yeah, in 2019, that seemed to be the case. This seemed to be the case. If I go into a retrograde getting things like this where there's something that I'm learning, something that I need to change, challenge, or address within myself, then typically there'll come a situation where I'll have to apply that information. And that's how they work for me. Um, that's kind of sort of how life in general works for me. Also because that's like how I approach life and dreams and like synchronicity and things like that. It's like, okay, well, what is this asking me to do? And then inevitably comes the time where I have to use it. Um, but I've already accepted these things. So I don't know. Again, I think that's what the dream was about. And I think that's too like why I've been in such a good mood lately. Because it's like I'm deciding who I am and who I want to be. And the decision of who I want to be, it aligns with the authentic nature of who I actually am. So I'm just like choosing to be myself, choosing to no longer be jaded or not be jaded, and just like, I don't know, because it's like I'm not going to sacrifice who I am because of a few people who I come across that it doesn't work out with. Like, I could do that, but I'd rather not, just establish better boundaries and make better choices. And I don't know. Like I said before, I'm not afraid of being hurt anymore. If I get hurt, I get hurt. I'd rather not regret not doing anything, because the log of regrets is much, it's like I don't want to regret not doing things anymore. I did that for long enough for the upper majority of my life. I'm not doing it anymore. If I cry, if I get hurt, if I'm heartbroken, I can deal with it, and I will gladly suffer through that for keeping myself intact. I don't know. That's just where I am in life now, and I like it. So now I'm gonna say this is like 42, 42:30, and we're gonna get into the card today. It's been a whole 42 minutes, and I ain't even got into it. But I'm actually not gonna timestamp this just yet, because I do want to add one thing. Like this is something that if you've been watching me for a hot minute, not a hot minute, for a second, like you would have seen my transition through this. And so like this is how I approach my dreams, synchronicities, life in general. Like I try to be observant to what spirit is showing me. And it could have been, I could have like attached heavy significance on that individual. Like, oh my gosh, this person is thinking about me. They may reach out to me or whatever. But it's broader than that. And like this is also one of the reasons why I try to talk about things a little bit more as I'm going through them, because like a lot of people see me, come across me after a lot of work has already transpired and a lot of transformation has already taken place. Like I didn't necessarily start my channel when I was going through it. I started when I was for the most part out of it. Or at the very least when I was dedicated to being out of it. Now there are things that I've worked through since I've started my channel. I can say my name. Hi, I'm Patrick Whitson. You want to see my degree? I got my name on it. Actually, like my grandma had a frame and I picked it up, and I'm trash. I ain't got no Virgo in my chart. So if you need something straight or lined up perfectly, don't ask me. So it was looking real tragic, and I was like, I don't know if this frame is gonna work. But I gave it to my mom, and she fixed it for me. As you can see the paper if you get real close. But yeah, she fixed it for me. I was like, wow, okay. Work. I do want to. I thought I had a nail in the wall somewhere, but I want to put it up so I can look at it. Anyway, call me Pa. Those are my initials, PAW. But what was I talking about? That's one of the things that like I used to like freak out if people knew my real name, and I don't know why. I do know why, I guess. I don't know why. but I can infer why. I don't know. That was a previous version of me, and that was a past life in the same incarnation. I don't remember what the big deal was, because now it's not that big of an issue. So there are things that I've actually like grown with as I've done this, but one of the reasons why I tried to talk on some of these things, and like if you catch me almost a year ago when I was like crying in March, um, for me it's important to show that like I'm still working through things. And again, like my process of working through things now from the space that I'm in now is drastically different than it was before. But what's changed the most, honestly, is that I'm no longer complacent with allowing challenges and problems to remain challenges and problems. I'm facing it, I'm addressing it, I'm moving on, I'm elevating, I'm growing, I am going towards the finish line. Because regression, going back, for me, it's not an option. The past, like, there are some beautiful things that happened in the past. I have some amazing memories back there, don't get me wrong. But there is nothing back there that's worth sacrificing the direction that I'm heading in. And if anything back there is meant to move into the future, it'll find me where I am and it'll continue growing with me. Because we ain't going back. But anyway, it's important to me. So, because like I know how strongly I speak sometimes. I know I do. But also at the same time, it was never my intention to necessarily be for everybody. I'm not the type of person that's for everybody. I don't want to necessarily read for everybody because that's not where I am. I'd rather focus on things and people who are in that space of transition, who are willing to wanting to actually put in the work to doing better, progressing, moving forward in life. And I can't, like, I'm no authority, but I'd rather like focus my critical eye on people who are in the like in the spiritual pursuit of that growth and development, because again, like I have no authority at all to, like, I don't gatekeep anything. But in my mind it's like, okay, well, if you're claiming some kind of spiritual power, at least someone should be asking you if you're using it like ethically or how you're using it. Because if you would claim any kind of spiritual power but continue to create and manifest a world that disenfranchises and disregards people because you don't like how it looks or because it affects your idea or ideal of the perfect world or whatever, but you don't realize how you're continuing to manifest literally the exact same thing by disregarding them. Like, somebody's got to be saying it. And that's like where I'd rather focus on. Right? So, and again, like that's why I started tarot for me. Now I've talked about this, like after my darkest night, I was like, everything has to change. And when I did my first Celtic Cross, like when I got the deck, my intention was show me the things within me that I can't see. Show me the things within me that are my biggest challenges and blockages, because this life that I've lived, the way that I've lived life, I know that like I'm not going to make it through another dark night. And I'm tired of living life in constant fear, and I'm tired of making choices and decisions that make me miserable because I'm afraid that as soon as I find happiness, I'll lose it. Like, I'm done with that. And I think that comes across sometimes, at least, in how I read and what I read for, and how I address and handle and talk about certain things. Because that was my intention when I started this whole thing. So yeah, it's important for me, and it may not necessarily be relatable for everybody, but it's me expressing and showing my humanity. And I feel like there's a lot of air and there's a lot of fire in me, but my water is like the most prominent element. It may not be easy to see, especially because of how I talk sometimes. Um, but I guess if I had to label my energy with the court card, it'd probably be like a King of Cups, Queen of Pentacles type of energy. It's caring and it's nurturing, but it's also very like if you want better, you got to do better. And also, like, I'm the type of person, I don't like being in a position where I can't help the people that I care about. And so if you're somebody that I care about and you're continuing to make choices and decisions to hurt you, I'm not going to say I'm going to stop caring about you, but it's like, well, what can I do? I don't know. But I already talked about that, right? My little brother, my youngest brother. It's I got to come to the point where, and I've come to the point where I allow everyone their own journey. And it's like I can't want better or more for someone than they're willing to do for themselves. I can, but it's non-productive. I just don't like being in a position where I can't help the folks that I care about. But that's me, and I ain't gotta be nasty or whatever because folks ain't whatever. Because I don't want that to be me. So I'm learning to navigate life just like everybody else. But anyway, in a very roundabout way, that's what that is. And again, I think I thought about that yesterday or the day before. It's like people probably can't see the water in my chart. Maybe you can sometimes, but like even when I get super fiery or whatever, like the water is still there. It's just ice. I got Scorpio in my chart. Pluto. There's a whole generation of people that's on my descendant too. So that's my seventh house. It's Scorpio. Right? And it got Pluto in there, and I think it's retrograde. So I got some interesting placements. All right, so 52:30, girl. It's been a whole 10 minutes. But yeah, I just wanted to explain that real quick. Because I don't know why. All right, now let's get into this. So, what is our card for today? Yesterday, it was the Queen of Swords. The setup is wonky. I know. Just deal with it. You don't like it, you ain't gotta be here. Oh no! I saw the bottom of the deck. Oh well, we probably aren't gonna make it through all 78 days anyway. Let me bring this back up so I can see myself in real time. Thank you. Bottom of the deck is the Nine of Wands. I love the Nine of Wands in this deck because that's someone who can keep going. The Nine of Wands, for me, it's one of those energies that really shifts from deck to deck. Because in some decks, they like beat up AF and they is ready to kill over or fall over. And in other decks, like this one, and in the Witch's Tarot especially, in the Nine of Wands, it's someone who can keep going. Someone who isn't phased. And she's standing strong. This Nine of Wands also, last time I saw it, it started carrying a 10 energy for me because there are 4 parallel lines and then that one cross line, it crosses 2 sets of 4. So in tally marks, that's the 5. So it carries a little bit of a 10 at the same time. But yeah, I didn't mean to look at the bottom of the deck, but I did. Hold up. Where did the Queen of Swords go? I just effed everything up. Hold up, wait, what's happening? Where's the Queen of Swords? Where's the Queen of Swords? I'm so confused right now. Well, here's the King of Swords. So the King and the Queen of Swords. But where did the Queen go? Where's the Queen? Now I'm looking through all of these. I'm probably not going to go too much farther into this anyway. Actually, Maybe I'll just end it today, and I'll just shuffle these out and do a reading, especially since I've been talking so much. I don't know where that Queen of Swords went, but because the Queen of Swords disappeared, we're ending at day 12. On the 12th day, Febmas, I guess. I'm really curious where that Queen of Swords is, though. Girl, where'd you go? Hello? Where'd you go? Oh, Queenie. The Queen of Swords done turned into the King of Swords. Don't ask me. I don't know how that happened. It's magic. She was literally just at the top of the deck. So it would have been the King of Swords and then the Two of Cups with that Queen of Swords. Girl. Maybe I'll find it later. She can't just disappear on me like that. I'm already missing cards in this deck. This deck is just like, ooh, girl, that's a whole bunch. Let's fix this. There you go. Hold up. Oh, gosh. Oh, because it's this one. The setup changed, y'all. Now y'all get to see all the struggle. There we go. Oops. Well. There we go. I'm already missing cards in this deck, and she's just like, oop, yep, I'm going to now. All right. The Queen of Swords has graduated from this deck and moved on. Oh, cut into the Four of Wands. That's gorgeous. I love that. Four of Wands came out at the bottom of the deck last night. The Queen of Swords will turn up if she turns up. So if you have a problem with me using an incomplete deck, then you can leave. Bye. One thing that kind of blows my mind is how entitled some people are. It's like, oh, this is whatever, and that's whatever. And it's like, okay, well, ain't nobody forced you to watch this. Thank you for voicing your concerns and opinion, I guess. I don't really care. But I don't know. Like, this ain't like you can't bring me a receipt and get a refund on the time that you spent on this video. You know what I mean? Or any video. Like, constructive criticism and constructive feedback is one thing, but people who just be like straight up rude and like, oh, well, you don't read the way I like. And it's like, okay, well, like, what do you want me to do? Some people will apologize and they're like, sorry, you're not going to find apologies here. Ooh, Two of Wands, Eight of Swords, Five of Pentacles, Three of Swords. What the world? So there's this High Priestess of Wands, Justice of Swords, the Hierophant of Pentacles, and a Fool of Water. I didn't mention the Fool of Water. The Fool is 0 last night when I did this. But, oh wait, I don't like myself not being up here. Okay, 1 second, y'all. I'm going to put this up here again because I want to. There we go. Let's make this a little smaller. I don't know. All right. So there's a Fool of Water, which may or may not be here. Let's see, right? You see. Wait, this is what I want to do. There we go. Here's another Hierophant energy. I don't know if any of the Hierophant energies would necessarily be good. Five of Cups, Five of Swords, Five of Wands, Five of Pentacles. None of them are great. I feel like this carries an energy of like bottom of the deck is the High Priestess. As long as there are certain things that we don't address, we continue to head down similar pathways. So just like I was saying, like trying to ignore and bypass. Can you even see me when I'm this small? Doesn't matter. Trying to ignore and bypass or look beyond certain things because it's not part of the world that you're manifesting. It continues to manifest a world where that's the case. And from that perspective, I'm just like, well, maybe this is the world that we manifested. because it's like, we can wish for world peace and ending world hunger and things like that, but if we don't do anything to create peace or do anything that addresses hunger, like, I don't know, do we expect for it to just disappear and vanish? With the Eight of Swords, it's not looking at it just propagates and perpetuates that energy. You just don't see it now. And so it's like your whole thing, like, I don't want to see it. Well, that's not very nice. Oh, there's Judgment. And the Six of Swords, though. All right. I'm only going to get a few cards because I've been talking for a lot today. Actually, I'm going to come back. I found a spread in, oh, gosh. Oh, come on. I just lost the Queen of Swords. Stop. I lose cards, y'all. Don't stop hitting the floor. Oh, okay, girl. Well, what's this about? Let's get into it. I'll be back because I found a spread that I want to do. I was going through and changing the ink from yellow to like colors that I can read now. Since I'm not using dark mode anymore, it's not yellow text on a black background. Now it's yellow text on a white background, and it's not that great. So the bottom of the deck is the Lovers. Here's the King of Swords again, where the Queen of Swords was, and the Two of Cups was behind them. Still don't know where the Queen of Swords is, but she'll turn up. I'll find her, y'all. Maybe. If she wants to be found, she will be. If not, she may be joining the Knight of Pentacles and whatever other energies that decided to peace out. The King of Swords here, though, he isn't blue. I can't see his feet all the way, but his hand isn't blue. He's got more skin exposed, and he's not turning blue. He's in his element. She was in his element, but in his element to the point where it was draining her of her color or causing her to freeze over. Everything in the proper proportion, right? Oh my gosh, the Four of Wands. I thought it was the Six of Swords for some reason. I thought I saw the Six of Swords. The Four of Wands and the Lovers at the bottom. Okay. The next card is the Princess of Cups. The Princess of Cups, again from last night, is asking you if you can feel it. This one, she's holding on to something. Holding on to this cup. What's behind her? The High Priestess and the Three of Pentacles. Okay. The High Priestess and the Three of Pentacles. This is a space for the Princess of Cups to become the Queen of Cups. She needs to do something to step into that pre-High Priestess energy that the Queen of Cups is. And the world, the universe, is giving her everything that she needs to become that. It's up to her, though, to use it as such. Or to I feel like she's cultivating the ability, though, right now. Someone's learning to trust spirit. And what it's going to do is it feels like an energy of rapid ascension. Rapid spiritual ascension. And I don't want to be like conceited. But just like how I can look at the world around me at large, also the world around me when it comes to people that I talk to, like what they're going through, what they're experiencing, different things that become synchronicities, dreams that I'm having. And with the approach that I take as far as like actually wanting to work through the things that keep me from getting what it is that I'm manifesting, then it's like, it's just learning how spirit talks to you, seeing it, working with it, doing what you need to do in the time that you need to do it so that when the challenge comes, you're prepared. Because my mom always says that the Bible says warning comes before destruction. Towers don't just fall. Right? That's where the devil comes before the tower. And before the devil is temperance. So you got the angel and the devil before the tower falls apart. This is like you have everything you need if only you could see it. Oh, well, y'all remember how I said the Knight of Pentacles was absent? Apparently he's not. Here's the Knight of Pentacles. I really thought the Knight of Pentacles had disappeared. But here he is. The Queen of Swords is gone now, but the Knight of Pentacles is here. I guess we're separating this into masculine and feminine energy. So the Hanged Woman. This is interesting. And then the Four of Wands is the union of all this energy. It's it coming all under one roof, sort of getting the same vision and playing out the same scene, even if they have like different backgrounds. Like we all find our way to this scene, but once everyone's gathered, then the scene plays out. What's interesting though is like typically it's like, oh, the masculine energy is lost and masculine energy is blah 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 blah. But here it's feminine energy that needs to see the way that spirit is talking to her instead of being in this hanged woman. It's not the hanged man in this deck, it's the hanged woman. Instead of being in this hanged woman energy. Because masculine energy is in the space of the King of Swords now. Again, this is him in his, oops, y'all can't see that. This is him in his element. So he's not turning blue while he's out there in the cold. Also, his sword is not at the ready. It is in hand, but it's pointed downward. Now, it's like with this Knight of Pentacles, he's discovering, learning, seeking how to actualize what it is that's transpired in the mental space. Spirit is talking to this feminine energy, telling her that it's time to begin putting something together. And so hopefully she's done what she needed to do, because whatever this waiting period is, I think it's going to be over real quick, because the Four of Wands is here with the Lovers at the bottom of the deck. And under the Lovers is that Eight of Cups. I think the Eight of Cups going into the Lovers speaks of things that kind of sort of need to just be, it's not just letting it go, but things that they need to be let go of. And so maybe you've been given an opportunity to process through some things that you need to process through outside of other people, so you can reach the conclusion that is uniquely yours and that is most aligned to who you want to be as a person and who you are as a person. Just like over here, there's a lot of stuff that it's not coming here, but somehow he made it to the King of Swords and he's at this Knight of Pentacles. And they're both looking in the same direction, both looking towards the Lovers. But all the feminine energy is facing the camera. And again, it takes me to that Princess of Swords yesterday who was like looking at and pointing at you. One hand pointed up, the other hand pointed at you. Like, Spirit is here. The two, Thunin and Munin, the two ravens of Odin, Odin's eyes, they're here. Spirit is up there. Where are you? And it's kind of sort of a similar energy here. That's gorgeous. Hopefully you've been doing the things that you need to do in your own life for your own growth and for your own healing, instead of waiting for somebody else to, or putting all of the growth on someone else. Because I don't know, it's this feeling, it's like this any day now feeling. Something could happen. And I don't, because he was talking about Oregon and I was like, oh yeah, I heard something about that. And like we were headed there. And for me, the people in the car symbolized basically different limitations on relationships and interactions that I've had in the past that could keep me from experiencing what it is that I wish to experience in the realm of community, friends, partners, family, everything. And honestly, for me, community has been something that's really been like heavy on my mind for maybe a few months now. And like when I first started really getting into YouTube and stuff, I don't know, it's like a lot of the community or a lot of community that I experienced wasn't great. And so honestly, it's kind of like tainted the experience for me. It's left a bad taste in my mouth. Um, but January 1 this year, I was invited to do a breathwork thing, a group breathwork session by one of my friends, one of my good friends, one of my best friends. And part of me was a little nervous, but I was like, yeah. She was like, really? I was like, yeah, I'll do it. She was like, ooh. And I was like, I need to open up myself to experiencing a better community than what I saw and experienced in the past. And again, it's like I can't hold on to certain experiences too tightly if I wish to experience something else. And I'll never experience a healthy community if I don't give myself the opportunity to experience community, right? And I know that we're all like learning and growing and we're all human and stuff and blah blah blah, whatever, but yeah. And so then for Mercury retrograde to happen in Aquarius in the 11th, in my 11th house is like perfect. Because again, I was already thinking about community before um, Mercury retrograded, but it could have, well, it's been a few months. It's been creeping up on me. Um, and my sun is in the 11th house in my birth chart. Now, my sun is in Pisces, but it's in the 11th house that's cussed by Aquarius. And Saturn is in my 11th house too. So I'm going to be coming upon a Saturn return. And like, I don't know, I'm excited for it. I'm not really worried about it because I'm paying attention and because I'm working through things instead of continuously pushing them off or finding ways to work around working through it. So I'm excited. And I know that, again, like, this is going to be something that's important. Community, larger organizations. That's why also, like, now that I'm looking for a job, I want to make sure I'm working for a company whose values actually align to mine and who aren't just saying one pretty thing on the internet, on their website, and in the mission statement, but in practice doing something completely different. And not gonna lie, part of me is just like really ready to start, really ready to begin. But something else within me is like, I feel it building. But this time, I'm not going to allow that anticipation to get me to get impatient like I did so many times last year. Honestly. And again, while I do really want it, I'm willing to wait. Right? It's like when you're hungry and you're waiting for somebody to finish cooking so you can eat. But I don't know, it's like I could eat other things to hold my appetite or to hold me over until the main dish is ready, or I could just have all of the room in my belly for that good food. Because once I get full, and I don't want to get full off of trash food and then not even be able to appreciate the meal. So I can wait. And again, this is something that I've been learning through and working through and growing through, and I don't know, just yeah. And again, something about masculine energy and feminine energy are so different. And I think when you sit in one space and you look at your journey and then you try to, if you believe you have a counterpart, and if this is like a twin flamey divine counterpart, whatever type of situation, it's like you can be working through and going through things in your way and then looking at who you believe is your person and they're not doing things in the way that you're doing things, or you don't see it happening in the way that you do it. And so you think that they're a lot further behind on their journey than you are. and you think you're waiting for them, and so you stop what it is that you're supposed to be doing and you start hyper focusing on what they're doing or not doing. But their journey, their path, their way and means of growth is different. And for me, it's on this channel. I did it. I'm pretty sure it's on this channel a while ago. It was a spread with the Queen of Cups. Speaking of the Princess of Cups, whose spirit is giving all the material she needs to be a queen. Or it's like it's time to be the queen. We're ascending the throne. I don't know. The time has come for you to lip sync for your legacy. Because it's your legacy that's on the line. So this is All Stars, I guess. Okay, work, sis. Anyway, girl, please, Patrick, keep it together. You're gonna lose it. It was a reading with the Queen of Cups and the High Priestess. And it basically came out like it was this type of thing happening. This type of thing. Where it's like where you start and where you're going runs counter to where they start and where they're going. And so it's like for some people it can happen a lot quicker and they don't need as much. Like some people can have literally everything they need. They just need to work through what stops them from doing it. Some other people may need to acquire things and so they start earlier. Like with it, like for myself, if I didn't start my journey when I started my journey, I would not be able to show up the way that I can now. I wouldn't be able to. And there would be a near 0% chance for things to work. Because where I was not at all in a position, let me come back here so you can see me. Not at all in a position for or nah. Sorry, I'm like, hold up. Girl, you don't even want to work over here. Hello? Is there anywhere? Oh, because you're right here. All right. There we go. I might as well turn this one off too. Goodness. She still don't want to work. Okay, well, fine. Well, now she ain't on this one either. Hello? You know what? I'll just do this. Mercury F with me if you want to. I'm just playing. Just kidding. So sometimes you just gotta find a workaround, you know? What was I talking about? Girl, I had it and I lost it. Yeah. If I hadn't already healed and done the things that I had started doing when I started doing it, I would not be in a position to show up the way that I'm showing up now. I wouldn't be. And if I didn't take the opportunity to work through those difficult, challenging relationships with one of my now best friends, with Sunny, the one who I sometimes reference to as my only friend in me. If I didn't take the time to work through that, there's no way I would have had the capacity or capability to show up for the things that I get to show up for now. And I actually get to show up for things in a way that may not necessarily be perfect 24/7, but I can honor myself and honor other people and love other people. And I can make choices and decisions from a space of wanting to love and respect both of us and not just, honestly, for me, it wasn't self-centered. It was more of like, I'm afraid of getting into this and losing it. So I'm just not going to try. I'm going to actually actively sabotage this. This makes me happy. Oh, don't want that. And so, like, also, too, like, I don't want anyone to compare themselves to me in some weird way if you're doing that. It's not weird if you're doing it, but I guess it's just weird to, like, say. Because, like, I've done a lot to be who I am today. And, like, it actually took a lot. It took a lot. So, and I don't know, it was about a year and a month ago, maybe, when something in me recognized something in someone else. And it was the magnitude of the light of that someone else. And I was just like, as I am now, I can't even hold a candle to this. And it's not comparative. And even like 11 months ago, a year and minus a month, it was like, if I want to show up, if I want to be who I want to be in this situation, in the situation, regardless of the person, but because of what was transpiring and what was illuminated to me in that point in time, it's like, if I want to be who I want to be in these situations, instead of me being who my triggers and traumas caused me to be in this situation, there's a lot more that I still need to do on myself. So I'm going to do it. And I did it. And first I decided to do it, and then Spirit was like, prove it. I was like, okay. And it wasn't necessarily a matter of proving it. It was just things transpired and happened. And for me, like, I'll be a little more specific. I'll be a little less vague. Um, like, I'm the type of person, not the type of person. I typically don't stand out too much. I'm typically fairly low key, right? But like, I am not the person at all to ask someone else to diminish themselves or to tone down because I don't want to catch some kind of like side attention. Like, oh, since I'm with you and you're getting a lot of attention, now I'm getting attention and I don't want attention. So can you stop? Like, I would never do that. I would never want to ask someone to do that. So I knew that within myself, so that that wouldn't even be a thought that crossed my mind. I needed to get more comfortable with myself, and I needed to learn to love myself more, and I needed to learn to use my voice and all kinds of stuff. And then a few months later, things transpired and I was presented with the opportunity, and I took the opportunity and I healed through and worked through the things that I needed to heal and work through. And now, boom, I got Leo in my chart. I got a renewed Chiron. And I remember maybe 9 months prior to that. So like June or July 2019, I came across someone who was like, "Oh, Chiron is the wounded warrior, and you'll never heal Chiron. Chiron will always be healed." I'm like, yeah, no, I don't accept that. I don't accept that. It's a challenge, yeah. Is it going to be difficult? Sure. Is it impossible? No, nothing's impossible. And then last year brought me the opportunity to begin really healing my Chiron. I was like, oh, okay, work. Now I'm trying to fit that energy in with all of the other ones that I have. So that's where yeah, because a healed Chiron and me actually moving towards my North Node in Sagittarius, with also a healed Venus who is now free of the prison she was in, deep in the heart, literally in the middle of my 12th house, in Aries, where she doesn't like to be at all. It creates a fire trine. And it's a fire trine that has been very, 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 very dormant in my life for a very, 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 very long time. So now I'm learning how to balance the element of fire with everything else. And I guess this is a little part about my birth chart. This is all about me, apparently. Part, what, 5 at this point? Um, but I have a water trine. It's my IC. So I have Mercury 24 Pisces. I have Pluto like 25 Scorpio. And then my IC is in that range in Cancer. Um, and then I also have like my Sun 10 degrees Pisces trining my Mars 9 degrees Cancer. And so I do have like a lot of water energy there. But I don't know, when that fire came online, it was just like dominant. And it caused a lot of, honestly, it caused a lot of not necessarily like internal turmoil or conflict, but it kind of did, because being someone who's patient and compassionate and kind and empathetic is something that's very important to me. And I was starting to feel like all of that fire energy, or like using my voice or being critical, was me no longer being patient and kind and understanding. And like, while I don't mind being critical and analytical, I don't want to be judgmental. And I think sometimes there's a fine line there. And sometimes all the water in me is like, am I crossing the line? Am I going too far? Am I doing too much? Am I not being understanding enough? Am I not being compassionate enough? But then the earth in me is like, you are. You can like, you can be nurturing and kind, but to truly nurture something, you also have to challenge it sometimes when it needs to be challenged. Because it's just like a child. If you don't prepare it to interact with the world, then it's not going to know what to do after you release it. And it's so interesting that as a society, it seems that we place so much responsibility on schooling and teachers to instill things in children that maybe it's the parents' job to do, right? It's like, why don't we have a home ec class? Kids are going to school and they're not even learning how to cook. And it's like, okay, well, you don't necessarily need an educator to teach you how to cook. Like, your parents can do that. Or somebody in your own personal life outside of school can do that. Right? But your parents can't necessarily teach you all of the math and like all of the things that you learn in school that they don't necessarily remember. Like, that's what school is for. But because of the way the economy and living is set up, there's a lot of people who don't necessarily have the luxury to teach their kids the things that they could be teaching them outside of school, because now they're working multiple jobs just to try to afford a place. And it's this whole system and cycle that is broken in so many ways, or that doesn't serve us in so many ways, and it's so many things that lead to other things that just honestly creates a whole big old mess. But like, lesser aligned hierophant energy is capable of doing that and capable of creating that, because it is the system. Hierophant is the energy of the system. And it's like, well, what point does it serve? What is it really about? And we're in a space now where we have to reevaluate a lot of things. And it's interesting that it seems like we're in a position where, to move forward, we have to be kind and we have to be compassionate and we have to take care of each other. And if we don't, we just keep inching closer and closer to that decline. And so there are some people, like, when it comes to issues like, let's say, student loan forgiveness, because your boys got some loans that he would love to be forgiven, honestly. Um, but like, from an economical perspective, it's like, well, if so many people have so much debt now, can the economy bounce back with that out there? It's like, oh, millennials aren't buying houses and this market is dying and that market is dying. It's like, okay, well, that's because a lot of them went to school like you were supposed to. You're told, if you want to be elevated and lifted out of poverty, go to school, get a degree, get a better job. But now it sends you further into poverty to get that. And with some jobs being what they are and certain hiring practices being what they are, it's like, okay, you've increased your debt, you got the degree, but now you can't even really find or do what it is that that degree is supposed to do for you. And again, there are certain hierophant systems that it's not designed for you to win. It isn't. And we see what happens to hierophant systems when those people begin to win who weren't intended to win. Right? Let's talk about GameStop and the stock market. Oh, that should be illegal. They shouldn't be able to do that. Why? Because it didn't happen behind closed doors with some elites trying to make some money. Now it should be limited and it should be illegal, when before that was just the name of the game. But when other people start to play and win, then it's a problem. It's an interesting space we found ourselves in. And a lot of people have been manifesting Age of Aquarius. And it's like when you pray for manifest a brighter light, shadows get darker. Like if I turned up the light and you see a shadow back there, it would just get more pronounced because the light is brighter. The contrast is increased. And the solution isn't to subjugate it back to the realm of shadow. It's to resolve it, to lessen it, and to move forward. Okay. That's what I got, y'all. I'm literally going to be like right back with a different video. I'm going to pull this spread. It's going to be interesting. And yeah, I don't know what this was today, but I'm feeling good. I'm feeling great. I had that dream last night. For me, myself personally, again, like I feel like I've talked through it since I had the first dream and now with this third one. It's just for me now to continue to hold on to this realization and to continue being this person. And honestly, it's who I want to be because it's so much lighter. And it opens up so many doors. And like, I don't know, I'm just happier in general, and nothing is necessarily transpiring. Necessarily. All right. So I hope y'all have and are having a good whatever whenever you see this. And I hope you're acting in alignment to make that which you wish to experience your reality. Because otherwise, how was it going to happen? I don't know. All right, bye. Bye, but like, see you in 2 seconds unless you're watching this later, or unless you don't come back. Then I won't see you in a few seconds. I don't know. Okay, bye.